Okay, so I think we can get started. I'll just turn things over to Councillor Townend to get us going tonight.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first Climate Action Public Engagement Feedback Session. So I thank you in advance for your patience with this virtual format. Obviously, in different times, we would have desired to share this moment with you in person, but we hope nevertheless to make it worthwhile for you tonight online. As Jenna mentioned, my name is Councillor Nathan Townend, and it is my pleasure to be able to introduce today's proceedings. So on behalf of our CAO, Stephen Silver, and all the staff at Loyalist, as well as your Township Council, Mayor Brzee, Deputy Mayor Hagedorn, Councillors Parks, Porter, Gordon, Buderick, and myself, welcome and thank you most sincerely for taking time out of your evening to be with us. Before going further, I want to introduce the people who have made these sessions possible and from whom you will be hearing momentarily. In our Township Climate Action Plan Working Group, we have Rami Mezarani, who is our project coordinator here at Loyalist. Rami is a graduate of Queen's with a Master's of Applied Science in Environmental Engineering. To date, Rami has spearheaded a number of initiatives at the Township, which loom large in corporate efforts to create a more sustainable and resilient operation. Alongside is Jenna Campbell, who you've seen, our engineering manager. Jenna is a recent graduate of Western University with a Master's of Public Administration. She brings to this project a wealth of knowledge and experience in her engineering field. Jenna is an active member of several professional associations, and like Rami, has been an invaluable internal lead in setting Loyalist's horizons for climate and environmental leadership. Next, we have Daniel Hendry, who is our Climate Action Coordinator. Daniel has a Master's in Strategic Leadership towards Sustainability from Blekinge Institute of Technology in Sweden. And Dan brings to the project respected experience from his being active in various projects related to sustainability, notably within the Kingston community. And lastly, but certainly by no means least, we have Claire Ellison, who is currently working towards her Bachelor's of Applied Science in Civil Engineering at Queen's University. Claire started working for the Township in May of this year and has been the administrative engine of this particular project. As you will note from these persons' involvement, Loyalist can boast a very highly skilled, educated, and motivated staff with relevant expertise to make our environmental and climate ambitions a reality here in Loyalist Township. And we are extremely fortunate to have them. But here at the Township, we cannot do what needs to be done alone. It is, of course, important for the Township to provide tangible, practical leadership in moving Loyalists toward a low carbon and sustainable future. That's why Council has set ambitious reductions targets and why Council has made climate action a key and comprehensive part of our strategic plan. However, climate change affects us all, and so it is going to require us all to do our part. And that's where you come in. This evening is about engaging you, the citizens of our township. No doubt many of you have signed in tonight because climate action is important to you, because you've experienced and are concerned by its effects, not least of all since the spring of this year. For indeed, increased frequency of pandemics like COVID-19 are themselves a product of our changing climate. None of you will be in any doubt about the pressing and existential need for change in the way we live as humans on this beautiful but finite and fragile planet. Thus, what we hope to achieve tonight is to gain insight and perspective from your response to this presentation, but also your imagination. For indeed, not just passion and willpower, but creativity, innovation, thinking outside the box are all essential ingredients for climate action as well. This is why we're taking a comprehensive approach in Loyalist. It isn't just about the carbon reduction, it's about what we have termed resilience, putting us on course to thrive in a future that we know will be different and we know must be different. So please enjoy the presentation that we have prepared, which will provide you much more detail as well as present some preliminary ideas for how to initiate a community-led and driven climate action plan. Following the presentation, we welcome your questions, ideas, and input, and we will sincerely hope this is the beginning of continued conversation and collaboration as we take Loyalist into a resilient future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Townend, for the introduction. So my name is Ray Masrani, and I'll be speaking to the project a bit and going over what it is that we are trying to accomplish today. So as a quick agenda, we'll spend a bit of time talking about what it is that we are trying to do with our climate action plan and the project as a whole. Talked about the Partners for Climate Protection program that we are a part of as a township. Give you a quick update as to where in the project we are currently. And then really getting into the meat of the presentation, talk about the Resilient Loyalist Township Climate Action Plan itself and talk about the initiatives that we're looking to get your feedback on tonight. And then finally, we'll close it off with some surveys and some feedbacks for you and feedback or ways for you to provide feedback to tonight. So getting right into it, we'll actually start with a bit of housekeeping. Township staff will be monitoring a few different avenues that you can reach out to us. So the first one is our email address at climateaction@loyalist.ca. The other one is the Zoom chat box. And then finally on social media, if anyone is watching through YouTube live right now, please feel free to send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. So we'll be using the polling function of Zoom today. So this will make more sense once we get into it, but really we'll be talking a lot about a scale of 1 to 4 for each different initiative. So when we ask you to evaluate an initiative after each one, 1 star means you really do not support the initiative, 2 to 3 means that you do to varying degrees, and 4 means that you really think that it's great and we should move forward with this initiative as a township. Another piece of housekeeping just before we move on from that, as a reminder, everyone is muted right now, but if you would like to ask a question, just please feel free to do so. Just make sure you unmute yourself first. So in terms of background for the climate action plan itself, so Loyalist Township enrolled in FCM's Partners for Climate Protection program in late 2017. The purpose of the program is to assist municipalities to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, both corporately and within the community. The climate action plan itself is meant to complement other strategic initiatives that are undertaken by the township, be it the strategic plan, the official plan, or the asset management plan, as well as all the way through the infrastructure master plan that's currently being worked on, or the secondary plan that we're also working on right now, as well as the ongoing budget process. In terms of the Partners for Climate Protection program itself, it uses a 5 milestone framework that each one needs to be achieved and that build upon each other. So we're going to break it down both corporately and within the community. So when you hear us talk about the corporate plan, it's all the initiatives that are directly under the control of Loyalist Township as a municipality. So this includes energy usage in buildings, fleet operations, water wastewater treatment plants, streetlights, and anything along those lines. Whereas community initiatives talk about or mostly encompass things that include residential energy usage, transportation, transit, and anything like that. So in terms of where we are on the corporate plan, we've finished establishing our baseline emissions inventory and our forecast, and council has set our emissions reduction targets. So those 2 milestones are complete, and then we're currently working on developing our local action plan. Milestones 4 and 5 will be implementing the plan that we develop and then monitoring its progress and reporting on its results. For the community plan itself, we've finished our baseline emissions inventory and forecast. It's just being reviewed by external third parties right now before it gets approved. And what we are currently working on is setting our emissions reduction target and developing a local action plan. And that's really the purpose of tonight's meeting, as well as some of the other initiatives that you would have seen coming out of the Resilient Loyalist Township project. Milestones 4 and 5, again, will be worked on throughout 2021 and above, but really what we're trying to do is finish our plan or have it in place and approved by council either in late 2020 or in early 2021. So on our corporate emissions, you might have heard me say that we've set our corporate greenhouse gas reduction targets. So council approved these in October of last year. What we're looking at is to target a 49% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2031, and this is relative to 2016 as our baseline. So what we're doing on the community side of things right now is trying to set that target as well. So 49% is quite aggressive, and we're not by any means implying that we need to be going to quite that level for our community targets, but the purpose of this meeting and the surveys that we've been sending out and the pop-up sessions we've been doing is just to hear back from you as residents about how far would you like to see the township take this project, and that's really the information that we're trying to gather from tonight. So we are looking for your feedback from both yourselves as residents or if there's any local business owners in the crowd. And the feedback that we receive throughout this whole public consultation process will be used to set these community emissions reduction targets. So really that brings us to what it is that we want to talk to you about tonight. We've spent a fair amount of time putting together a long list of initiatives of projects that could be implemented within the community. So these projects would have been, or these initiatives would have been undertaken by other municipalities across Canada to with varying levels of success, and we believe that they could be implemented here. But by no means does it imply that we will be looking at implementing all of them. We're, based on the feedback we receive, we will be putting recommendations forward to council as to which initiatives to move forward with. And one thing that I really want to stress here is some of these initiatives might already be undertaken by some local groups or organizations. And what we're trying to do here is not replace them, but it's actually how can we go about in supporting these groups to maybe take this a little bit further, be it either by taking advantage of bulk pricing or just by helping organize with some of the resources that we have available as a township. So as a quick overview, we're going to be looking at a list of about 24 different initiatives that are broken down into 5 categories. So we'll go through them one by one. We'll give you a quick description about what the initiative is, as well as a high-level cost for, or high-level estimate for its cost of implementation, its greenhouse gas reduction potential, and how long it would take to implement. So these are very high levels. We won't be seeing actual dollar figures quite yet. They're just estimates. The symbols on the left-hand side can be used as a bit of a legend where if it's one symbol, it would be either a low implementation cost, low reduction potential, or quick to implement. And then it builds on that all the way up to 3 either dollar signs, leaves, or clocks. We will be using Zoom polls. So every time we go over each initiative and describe what it is that, what the initiative is, a poll will come up where you get a chance to evaluate the initiative on a scale of 1 to 4. So as a reminder, 1 is you would not support seeing this initiative implemented in the township, and 4 would be you really support it and you would like to see it come to Loyalists. If you aren't watching through Zoom, or if you're watching through YouTube, there is an option for you to fill out a survey later, and we'll be linking to those on the last slide. So I believe we can get right into it. So our first category is community resources, and the first initiative within this category will be a tool library or repair cafe. So what these are rental shops or community sharing centers where members have the option to check out a piece of equipment or a tool that they don't really need to use all that often, that they might need to use maybe once a year or twice a year. So by having these available for checkout, patrons don't necessarily have to go out and buy it and have it sit in a shelf or in a closet for after its 5 minutes of use. The other opportunity that is available through these repair cafes is to have repair workshops where someone who's knowledgeable about a certain topic can have a workshop and show someone how to fix their toaster or fix their microwave or anything along those lines, and it would help build a sense of community. So even though this initiative might not have a direct significant impact on our greenhouse gas emission reductions, it could help build that sense of community and just promote a sense of reducing waste generated by buying things that don't get used all that often. We believe that it could be implemented fairly quickly and for a fairly low cost. So the polls will come up and you get a chance to vote. So as a reminder, 1, you think this is not the best idea, and 4, you think it's great. So we'll give it a few seconds. Give it about 10 more seconds. All right, let's call this one good enough. So next up is online resources. So this one is also fairly straightforward, low implementation cost, and could be done very quickly, but maybe not the highest greenhouse gas reduction potential. But this would involve putting educational or interactive resources on the township website for residents to access. So this could include a variety of different resources, from a cost-benefit analysis tool for anyone looking to buy an electric vehicle, or a carbon footprint calculator for anyone looking to determine what their individual carbon footprint is based on their lifestyle choices, or even a website which provides suggestions on how to improve the climate resiliency of homes. So these resources are available, but what we'd be doing here is just putting them in a central location for ease of access. So if we get the poll up and running. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. All right, hopefully everyone has had a chance to respond. All right, next up is a climate action fund. So under this one, the township would establish a climate action fund where residents or local businesses would have the opportunity to make a donation to fund local climate action projects. So under this, any project or any organization within the community that is looking to have a project that achieves any of the following objectives would be able to apply to the fund and maybe help get some, or maybe have some help in contributing towards the capital costs associated with the project itself. So this could include any project that would help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase energy conservation, or just divert organic waste, or just assist with climate change adaptation or technology innovation. So this could be implemented relatively quickly at a fairly low cost, and it could have a moderate impact on emission reductions. So let's get the poll up and running for this one. All right, perfect. We will give it 5 more seconds. Excellent. So next up is education sessions. So under this one, the township would facilitate education sessions on a variety of climate action projects. So these could include anything from home gardening or energy and water conservation or active transportation. So someone knowledgeable on the topic would come in and present a little bit of information on how residents could take up some of these topics. This would also have the added benefit of providing a platform for like-minded residents to connect, and again, help build that sense of community and that sense of resiliency by just building these relationships and helping people with like-minded interests connect with each other. So this could be implemented very quickly and at next to no cost, with a fairly minimal direct impact on greenhouse gas emissions reductions, but it's one of those things that could eventually build on itself. So let's get the poll up and running. Give a few more seconds for the last few answers to come in. All right, I think we're good. Thank you, everyone. So moving on to the next one, is the last one in this category, would be youth engagement and education. So very similar to what we just talked about with the engagement sessions or the education sessions, but a bit more of a focus on youth engagement. So these would be initiatives that would help educate the up-and-coming generation on the effects of climate change and how they can take action on against climate change. This could be done in a variety of ways. A few of the examples that we have on here are through the Engineer in Residence program with Professional Engineers of Ontario, where a volunteer engineer would work with a local school or local classes to inspire young people to take up the topics of science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as climate change. So it's a bit more of a mentorship program. Or another example is a virtual township where the virtual gaming platform of Minecraft could be used to replicate the township in a virtual environment and just really create a bit of a sense of ownership towards the township through its users. So fairly low implementation costs, since a lot of these would be volunteer-based and quick to implement, but again, moderate or fairly low direct greenhouse gas emission reduction potential. But it would, again, just help change the culture towards climate action with our youth. So we'll get the poll up. And just a few more seconds. Perfect. All right, thank you for voting. So this takes us to the end of this category on the community resources. So what we'll do is we'll take a very quick break and give everyone a chance to either ask questions for any of the 5 initiatives that we just talked about. So again, feel free to either raise your hand or put a question in the chat box, or even email us if you'd like. And then what we'll have is we'll have a poll come up where you have the opportunity to put down your favorite idea that you've seen so far, if one of them really stuck out or stood out to you. So please feel free to use the poll to vote.
Just while everyone is voting, I just wanted to say I apologize. I'm not sure what's happened, but we don't have the chat function in the meeting this evening. So I'm sorry for that. If you have questions, you can unmute and ask them of us. And then if you would prefer your questions to come in to us anonymously, then you can email climateaction@loyalist.ca and we'll read them out without your name. Sorry for that.
Thanks, Jen. So I think let's give it a few more seconds for the last couple of votes to come in, and then we can move on to the next category. All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone. So our next category will be on the topic of environmental protection. So the first initiative in this category would be community gardens. So as implied by the name, these would be organized public spaces where the community could come together to grow food and other plants. So these would be at either one or several locations within the township, within parks or other areas. Several plots would be available that could be either rented out or booked for people throughout the year, and they would have the opportunity to come by and garden. So really good for anyone looking to grow food, or anyone who maybe doesn't have the largest backyard and who is just really passionate about gardening, and give them an opportunity to do so. So these could be implemented at a fairly low cost. It might take a moderate amount of time to get them up and running. And then the greenhouse gas reduction potential of this initiative is low. Directly, it might be hard to quantify, but over time, it could make a good difference. So we'll have the poll up and running. Let us know what you think of this one. So as a quick reminder, 1, you think it's a terrible idea, 4, you think it's great. Perfect, I believe that's everybody. So our next idea, or our next initiative would be going around home energy audits or retrofits. So there's 2 parts to this one. The first one is the township would facilitate homeowners to get energy audits done on their homes. So this would really identify potential areas for improvements in a home's energy usage profile. So a qualified expert would come by and evaluate the home's windows or insulation or appliances, and provide recommendations as to how the energy or how the home could be more energy efficient, either by upgrading any of these components. The audit would give not only a sense of how much the upgrade would cost, but also the impact that it would have over time. And depending on the findings of the audit, residents would have the opportunity to move to the next step, which was actually implementing the retrofits that are recommended by the audit. So under this one, what we found in our research is that one of the main barriers for homeowners to implement retrofits on their homes or energy retrofits on their homes is actually associated with the upfront capital cost. So the township could facilitate a low interest loan program that would be repaid through the property's property taxes over time. And usually the impact on energy costs would be pretty significant, where the energy bill would be reduced, or the water bill, depending on the type of retrofits. So the economical benefits would be present for the duration of the upgrade, which should be several decades, even past the term of the loan. So we'll get the poll up and running. This initiative would take a fair amount of time to implement and would cost a bit of money to administer, but it could have a significant impact on greenhouse gas emission reduction within the community. So we'll let the last couple of votes come in. And give it about 5 more seconds. All right, perfect. So moving on to the next one. This one is a pollinator protection strategy. Oh, there we go. So this one would be mostly policy driven, where the township would implement or promote the different methods to protect the native pollinator communities that are local to our area. So this could be done in a different number of ways, either by creating or enhancing natural pollinator habitats, or designating green spaces, or just through education. Really, the purpose of this would be to create a robust and resilient ecosystem and enhance local biodiversity. So it might take a bit of time and a bit of money to implement this, and the direct quantifiable greenhouse gas emission reduction potential is a little bit on the lower side, but I think we can all agree that the long-term benefits of this initiative would be quite substantial. So if you could pull up the poll and let us know what you think. I'll give it a few more seconds. Perfect. So moving on is the next topic is rural resources and land use initiative. So this one's very similar to what we talked about with the education sessions a bit earlier, but it really focuses on our rural residents and trying to provide some education or resources on topics such as sustainable land use. So other examples could be information on sustainable agricultural practices, or also directing residents towards the Ministry of Natural Resources Managed Forest Tax Incentive, in which residents who agree to have a managed forest on their property could receive some benefits through the form of tax, or through the form of a tax incentive. So again, this one is fairly education-based and might take a bit of time to implement, but it could have a fairly moderate impact on greenhouse gas emissions within the township. Let us know what you think. Perfect, thank you. So moving on to the last one in this category is the rain barrel program. So going back to what I said earlier, is what we're trying to do here is support local organizations that already do this, and there have been a few, such as the Amherst Lions Club. But really, what a rain barrel program does is it makes a rain barrel available to homeowners or property owners or renters to collect and store rainwater on a property. So this has a number of advantages. Obviously, it reduces water consumption by capturing rainwater for landscaping purposes, but also reduces runoff, which helps with our stormwater management. So as a reminder, under this program, the township would partner with existing groups to provide rain barrels to residents at a subsidized rate year-round, and just really do whatever we can to help support this program. So we can get the poll up and running. So we believe that we can get this up and running reasonably quickly at a low cost. And it would have a low impact on greenhouse gas emissions, but it could significantly reduce water usage on an individual property tax, or on an individual property. Perfect, so that's all the votes. So that brings us to the end of this section. So again, if you would like to let us know of your thoughts, or if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or send us an email at Climate Action. While we do that, we'll get the poll up and running and let us know what your favorite one of these 5 initiatives was. So we'll just give it a few more seconds. Perfect, last call for votes. All right, excellent. So I'm going to turn over to my colleague Dan, who's going to talk to you about local businesses and how what we can do to help there.
Thanks so much, Rami, and thank you everyone for giving part of your evening up to come and listen and be engaged to participate. We really appreciate it. My name is Dan Hendry, and I'll be going over right now the next 3 categories. Same format, the polls after each one. I'll do a quick description, and then we'll end it off at the end of the night. Just in about, I think we have about 10 or 12 more to go through. So in this category, it's local businesses and organizations. The first one is a waste reduction strategy. So this would be a voluntary waste reduction strategy for local businesses, specifically focusing on single-use plastics, things like bags, cutlery, utensils. And today was actually, it was announced that some of these will be starting to be phased, to be banned by the federal government. So again, a low impact as for greenhouse gases locally, but if you think about all single-use plastic being petroleum products for the most part, and being shipped all around the world, this could have a bigger effect more than we would think just locally, and save space in the landfill as well. This initiative had a low effect, again, around greenhouse gases, but it could help offset operating costs of businesses. So this is the first one here, the local business category. If we can put the poll up, please let us know what you think of this one. I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep on going. And just a couple more seconds here to get your votes in, please. Thank you so much. The next idea in the local business category is actually an established program that exists in Kingston and other places across Ontario, up to Sudbury, I believe, down to Niagara and Ottawa. It's a group, an organization called Green Economy Canada, I believe, and their program is the Green Economy Leader Program. And this is a program for organizations and businesses to sign up and get a baseline of their greenhouse gases. What this really is this organization and hub, they work with the business to establish a baseline and then steps that these businesses could help reduce their greenhouse gases. And really that's around savings and cost savings through the utilities as well. So this one here has it's a bit more money, but has a higher or a moderate, greenhouse gas reduction potential, and it can get done fairly quickly, kind of in that moderate area as well. If we don't mind pulling this up, this is to support the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the poll of a program that helps local businesses get a baseline and start reducing greenhouse gases. Perfect. The last one in the local business category is to help promote and support local food. And what this could look like would be anything from supporting community-based, community-sustained agriculture in Loyalist Township. This could be done either as provide drop-off points or places to grow local food for farmers, or those that grow local food, or other things around local food, such as helping promote the Public Health Good Food Box, which is actually a not-for-profit that provides fresh vegetables and fruits as a distribution system. So these are 2 ideas. Again, going back to local food, if you look at local food, promoting local foods, the more we do locally, if you think of all those extra miles put on the packaging and growing foods from all across the world, shipping it here, the more we promote local foods, it has a large effect outside of just the area as well. If we pull up the poll, please, and please vote on these promoting local food initiatives. Thank you. So the last piece of this was actually the overview of the area. We just had the 3 selected for that. So again, If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or send an email, which we read out. And we're actually going to pull up that last poll of which one did you like the most out of the local business, the waste reduction strategy, green economy leader program, or promoting local foods. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to be moving into the next category we have, and that is transportation. So within transportation, we have identified 5 different areas. One is active transit. So what this means is anything that can help include any mode of self-propelled transportation. Usually this could involve things installing sidewalks, multi-purpose trails, bike lanes, paved shoulders. The installation of an active transit network require a high level investment and take some time to implement. However, this initiative would have a potential high greenhouse gas reduction for the community as more people use them and less using single occupancy vehicles potentially. So this is the idea of active transit. If we can pull up the poll for this one, please. What do you think of the 1, 2, 3, 4? Thank you so much. The next one in transportation is public electric vehicle charging stations. So most electric vehicle owners recharge their batteries at home. However, public charging stations can provide a boost to these low emission vehicles, allowing owners to plug in while running errands around town. The addition of public charging stations in Loyalist Township would address a need for this sort of infrastructure between Napanee and Kingston, contributing to the expansion of an electric vehicle charging network in Canada. This again has moderate costs or moderate to medium costs, has a higher potential in reducing greenhouse gases, and would take some time to implement. So if we can pull up the poll, please vote on your, again, from a great idea to something you don't like. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 4 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. The next one in transportation is public transit. So an effective public transit system can be an important component of a connected, livable, and sustainable community, but it also requires time and resources to implement. Expanding public transit within Loyalist could take many forms. In reality, it's maybe not what you would, there's not a one-size-fits-all option, so really digging into this. I'd like to point out, if you haven't already seen it, there's a specific survey for public transit on social media and on the township's website. We're really trying to dig in to get information from residents from out the township to understand more about their needs or ideas around public transit. Having to get creative with this one, again, costing more, has a larger potential greenhouse gas reduction and would take some time. So if we can pull up the poll for this option in transit, and let us know what you think of a public transit system in Loyalist Township. And again, if you're able, the surveys are available online. And the last we have in the transportation category is a bicycle sharing program. So this is a service in which bicycles are made available for shared for individuals to use on a short-term basis. Many bike sharing systems allow people to borrow a bike from one docking station and return it to another. These programs are typically run by a third-party vendor, so the cost could be lower. And the more people use it, it would have some potential for reducing greenhouse gases. And it could enhance active transit in Loyalist Township. And this one could be done fairly quickly because of the third-party vendor usually implementing them in the other cities that we've researched. So if you could pull up the poll for this one, let us know what you think with, again, the 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think you'll probably get sick of me saying 1, 2, 3, and 4 by the end of this presentation, but we don't have too many more left. And that's the last initiative within the transportation category. So if we'll pull up, again, that general feedback, if you had email that you'd want to send in, we are monitoring that, as well as raise your hand if you had a question or a comment. And I would like to iterate before I go into the last category of waste, and there is some time at the end to have a quick discussion or provide additional feedback. While I'm saying that, you can vote on your favorite in the transportation category that should have popped just up on your screen there. these are ideas that we've researched and are feasible, that we've seen in other communities, but that doesn't stop it at this. So if there's something that we're missing or gaps in this, please email or communicate with us, because we're really trying to see, this isn't just the list, these are just kind of starting points potentially for greenhouse reduction. With that being said, I'll move into the last category that we'll present tonight, which is waste and waste reduction. So the first option would be just supporting backyard composting. This is an effective method of managing organic waste in a home, and it depends on availability and space. And this is literally just backyard composters supporting that program in some fashion. This is lower cost. Continuing these types of programs has a good potential for greenhouse gas or moderate by keeping organics out of a landfill that would break down without oxygen and create methane gases. And these are fairly turnkey to implement. So we'll pull that one up around backyard composting systems. We have other options coming up around composting because not everyone necessarily would have that option of a backyard. So we'll talk through some different options next. So if you don't mind voting, I'll move on to the next one in a second here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is a bit different of an idea that we found, but with emerging technologies and changes. So there are at-home applianced home composting units. So again, keeping organics out of the landfill. These are units that can fit into your house that help break down organic matter. They're fairly low cost and could be quickly, potentially compared to other things, quickly implemented. These ones here, though, the idea with this is from what we've read, there are different options, no smell necessarily of what we've read for the different ones. And the idea, again, is keeping organics out of the waste stream and out of the landfills. And this is an option potentially. So these are home composting units. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Home composting units. So again, if you could vote on this one, a 1, 2, 3, or 4 when the poll pops up, let us know what you think. And we have just a couple more left. I really appreciate your time tonight. As you were kind of moving on with compost. So this is something I've had to get deep in the last while. So these are actually a bit different. They're community compost depots. So this is a community compost depot is a centralized composting facility where residents can drop off their compost-friendly organic waste. Material will be processed on site, which will be made available to users. Community compost depots are a good alternative for individuals looking to reduce the amount of waste they produce. So if you can, so it was set up in Loyalist Township, it'd be a moderate cost initiative, which would take several years to complete. But the greenhouse gas reduction of this potential initiative, it does depend on the uptake, but again, it's keeping organics at a landfill. And if you don't mind voting. And the next one, and one that I think many people are familiar with, the idea of a little bit different, or not different, but definitely different than the composting depot. This is the convenience of a curbside collection program. So the green bin program, organics picked up, incorporated into the existing garbage and recycling programs within the township. Due to its user friendliness, and curbside organic collection is usually the most effective method of diverting waste from landfill, resulting in a higher level of greenhouse gas reductions. However, the infrastructure required to pick up and process green bin waste would also result in the greatest cost for residents out of all the potential organic waste diversion programs being presented. If we don't mind popping up, this one again, a higher cost, higher potential with greenhouse gases, and that moderate time to assess and implement. Thank you so much. And the last one before we finish it off for the night, open up for additional questions and comments. This is a clear garbage bag policy. So under this initiative, residents were required to dispose of their waste in clear garbage bags as a way of encouraging recycling and organic waste diversion. Residents would be allowed one privacy bag, and clear bags would be rejected if they contain too much material that should not be sent to the landfill. This initiative would be a low-cost way of encouraging proper waste sorting, reducing the amount of waste being sent to the landfill that could be disposed of in a more sustainable manner. This low-cost initiative could have a positive effect on waste-related emissions by increasing the amount of waste being diverted from landfills. on the other side too, it also, with less waste recycling going to the landfill, it would prolong the life of landfills by keeping recycling out of it. So this is the last one in the waste category. If we don't mind just popping this individual poll up here to see what you guys think, the 1, 2, 3, 4 of this. Perfect. And we have the last one coming up, if you don't mind. We have just the last one here is just that voting of your overall best, or the one that you like the most regarding the waste reduction feedback. So again, if you don't mind voting on your favorite waste reduction initiative, it would be much appreciated. Perfect. Okay, so that takes us to kind of the overall closing slide or overall feedback. If there are any questions, thoughts, or feedback that you'd like to give to us tonight, you're more than welcome to put up your hand and jump on and have a chat. If you prefer to email us, that would be great as well at climateaction@loyalist.ca. I'll move on to the last bit of just a little bit of information. Again, if you have any questions, pop your hand up. Oh, we have a raised hand, Anna. Are you able to speak there? Sorry. Hey, Anna, are you? If you want to unmute, I'm sorry. Two screens here.
It may, sorry, I'm going to unmute Anna. I may have accidentally muted everyone without
Hi, yes,
allowing.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I
It's
apologize
okay.
for that. Go ahead.
So my main question was whether or not we had any kind of estimates up to date. I know some of this was included in the compost survey, but whether or not there's any information up to date as to how much curbside pickup compost would cost residents. And my follow-up question to that is that in sort of speaking with residents on Facebook and in my neighborhood, there's a lot of concerns and I think miseducation around compost pickup actually increasing rodents and pests in our neighborhood, whereas everything I've read actually proves the opposite. So is there any kind of plan to educate the public further about the benefits with waste reduction programs, specifically around curbside pickup or compost options?
Sure, I can speak to that. So in terms of the estimating the cost of implementation, that one's a little bit tricky at this stage just because a lot of factors play into it, right? So first of all, where are the organics wastes going to end up? And do we as a township need to set up a processing facility, or can we partner with a neighboring municipality to actually accept all of these or all of the curbside organics that are diverted, or can we look at a external third-party contractor? And also, how many people are actually going to take part in this program, right? So if we're limiting it to rural area or to urban areas, sorry, as opposed to the whole township, the economies of scale will play into how much it'll cost individual homeowners. And then we also want to look at it, whether it'll be a tax-funded initiative or it'd be a rate or a user rate funded initiative. So there's a lot of questions that kind of at play here. And that's part of the reason why we're taking all this time to get a sense of what residents are interested in. And some of the feedback that we're getting is there is a fair amount of interest or curiosity, at least, behind our curbside organic program. So with that in mind, we can start putting a bit more time into investigating the logistics of EdBoast in terms of how much it would cost, how we would go about implementing it, and also how to go about educating users to ensure maximum compliance with the program and help accomplish the goals that we're trying to meet here. Does that answer your question? So you are still on mute. No, there we go.
I was muted. Thank you. It does answer my question. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, for all the work I've seen you do. The surveys are going to really help inform different decisions. So that's actually going to be the last slide there. And of course, if anyone else has any questions, pop up your hand. The last slide are just about the open surveys. We do have what you saw today, these different initiatives and different ideas that we've proposed or potentially that are options. That is actually, they're lined up with the community or the Climate Action Plan Community Initiative Survey. So if you didn't have a chance today to add additional feedback, or if you're interested, you're thinking later, you're like, hey, I wish I had said this, please email us, or if you can fill out the survey, there's an option there, or spread the word, because it really does help getting a lot of different people's opinions. And then 2 specific ones, one in which you saw the SSO, which is the Source Separated Organics Program, that's the green bin or organic survey. It's been doing very well, and the more the merrier, really, the more information it can really help. And the last one, there's another survey floating around both social media, on our website, and via email of public transit. So again, public transit, we'd really want as much feedback as possible, because it really won't be a one-size-fits-all option. We might have to get creative to see how this could work. So thanks again for all the effort, people, for coming in your evening tonight and spending this for almost last 45 minutes with us. I'd like to remind that these are great surveys, if you can help. And we're monitoring the climate action at loyalist.ca email if you have any other thoughts, considerations, or feedback. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Dan, thanks for that. I am just going to click the button that says basically would allow anyone to unmute. I think we might have had some technical limitations that people couldn't ask questions before. So if anybody wishes to ask a question still, there's still time for that. Yes.
So I'm wondering if any consideration's been given to using electric vehicles by the township. I'm thinking mostly garbage trucks, recycling trucks that really smell. It'd be great if they were electric. They'd be so much quieter too.
Right, so great point. So parallel to this community process, we're undertaking a climate action planning process for corporate initiatives as well. So that's certainly something that we've been looking at. We've been looking at all of our fleet resources in-house. Unfortunately, we don't have as much control currently over what our third-party collection partners do in terms of waste collection, but that's certainly something that we can look into the language that we could use later for subsequent contracts when we're procuring that sort of service, to look at what our options are there. But certainly for township owned fleet, we are certainly looking at all of the trucks that we own and what options exist, and we're building that into our corporate plan.
That's great.
Is there anyone else who has any questions this evening? Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us, as Dan said, and please use that climateaction@loyalist.ca email if you have any other feedback for us. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Hey, everyone.
Steve?
Thank you.